Non, non, merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Je crois que nous avons devant nous un partenaire extrêmement important. C'est l'espace économique de l'Afrique de l'Ouest. Et je crois qu'avec M. Mba, qui vient d'être président de cet espace des collectivités territoriales, avec sa vision actuellement qui est en train de se mettre en place, parce que la question de l'eau, c'est une ressource partagée. Il appelle à une gouvernance multi-acteurs. Et je crois que la question, cette vision-là, il est en cohérence avec une gestion rationnelle et intégrée de l'eau. Et je vous remercie. I want right now to call our friend Augustine, president of PACJA. And the question is very simple, is how do you see the role of civil society in the implementation of the round table of mayor of water security?
Thank you. My name is Augustine Jamshi. I come from Cameroon. I'm the co-founder and chair of political and technical affairs of the Pan-African Climate Justice Alliance. I'd like to thank you for inviting us to this very important event. Talking about water governance, it is key, especially in our urban centers and the continent. You know, governance is usually not about the adequacy of the final decision. Governance is about the process of getting to that decision. So, at the end of the day, who takes decisions about water in our cities and even in the rural areas? It is very important. Principle 10 of the Rio Declaration says sustainable development can only be attained if citizens have access to information, participate in decision making, and have access to justice when their rights are infringed upon. This means citizens need to have adequate information about the quality and quantity of water that they have. They also have a right to participate in decision making about the water. We see in many African cities where people drink water that has color. It comes from our taps, and then there is a lot of mud, but you can't pinpoint whom to ask a question to. The water authority is somehow blended or proved, citizen proved, in such a way that you cannot even have access to them to ask about the water you are drinking, the quality and quantity of water. Is access to water a right? Yes. Access to water is a right, and if citizens cannot be able to put the water authorities under accountability and transparency, we'll continue to have the issues of poor quality water or lack of access to water, where some people are paying so much for water in the same city, while others are not even paying anything. So, what is the role of civil society? We think it is time our authorities invest in research in water governance. Are the systems such that, are the laws such that people can have access to information about the water they drink? Are the systems such that people can participate in decision making about the water? So we come in as civil society to contribute to this research and consultation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Augustine. You know, you are right. You know, I think that access to information regarding water is a key, and the role of civil society is very, very important, you know. I switch right now to very strong partners regarding water and sanitation is UN Habitat. And I call to Firas to take the floor. And the question is, what is the WASH outlook in African cities in relation to the climate change impact in the context of water resilience? You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chair. My name is Hezekiah Pire. I head the water and sanitation team at UN Habitat. UN Habitat is one of the two UN organizations headquartered here in Nairobi, and the only ones located in the south. And we work very closely with cities and local governments to provide solutions around water resilience and issues around sanitation. The reason that the African continent is special to us in Habitat is because of two trends. One is the fact that it is the fastest urbanizing continent at 3.5% per annum. It also has one of the largest populations living in slums at 61% by 2010. The number is increasing rapidly, which is a challenge that many of the speakers here have mentioned. This provide complications in provision of water and sanitation services, and even more complicated by climate change impacts. I don't want to focus on the doom and gloom in Africa, because there are many solutions that we are working with local governments and cities to provide. One is the fact that we are providing a toolkit for climate proofing of infrastructure, which is a tool that we have developed together with a number of partners, including African partners. And it provides guidance on how investments in water infrastructure, sanitation infrastructure, can be designed with climate change in mind. So that is one toolkit that is very critical. The other important work that we have done is how to respond to too much water. Yes? Or time is over? Oh, okay. My time. Okay. I'll summarize. Yes, how to deal with too much water. We have implemented a program in northern Ghana targeting 265 communities in 21 districts. This is an area that experiences floods every year. And the idea is to develop flood-resilient infrastructure. How do you, for example, develop boreholes that cannot give way during floods, toilets that do not give way during floods? The other program which we are implementing here in Kenya, and Engineer Alima has alluded to, is the joint UN government of Kenya program in the ASOL districts in Kenya. And this is a program that targets water and sanitation investments in areas in Kenya facing drought. The next program, and I will stop after that, is one that we are also implementing here in Kenya and Nepal, called Citywide Inclusive Sanitation. The idea really is to develop data systems that capture seaward and non-seaward sanitation. Sanitation is also a big issue that we need to focus on in discussions around resilience in Africa. So how do we develop data systems that capture both seaward and non-seaward sanitation? Secondly, how do we work with the departments of planning to ensure that sanitation is mainstreamed in national urban policies? And we are working very closely with Inga and his team to make this happen here in Kenya and also in Nepal. And lastly, how do we generate knowledge and share experiences around sanitation-focused partnerships? Let me stop here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I am going to switch rapidly to African Development Bank. Chanda is Director of Water and Sanitation, and the question is very simple, not simple. How African Development Bank see its commitment to support the implementation of African measures roundtable of water security?
Hello, good morning. My apologies for coming in late. As much as we want to have good security, but it has got its implications.
Yes.
Yeah, the African Development Bank supports and would like to work with mayors because of the critical role that governance plays in the provision of water and sanitation services. Now, one of the biggest challenges that we see in failing utilities is a result of weak governance. And the mayors are at the center of strengthening and seeing to it that governance is improved by appointing the right board, by ensuring that the boards appoint the right management. That is the starting point. Immediately we get these two wrong, it is going to be very difficult to fight unaccounted for water. It is going to be very difficult to extend services. It's going to be very difficult to even implement financing that may be brought by either the African Development Bank or indeed any other financiers. So we are very interested and we are willing to support this roundtable to see that the mayors do their part. Governance succeeds, then we will start talking a totally different story. We'll have a different narrative in urban water supply and sanitation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Now I call Mr. Mbasi for 3 minutes, please, to wrap. Yes. To conclude.
How can I conclude a very rich and informative session like this? Going to principle, actual implementation, recommendation, including in the process of building decision on water. It is very challenging to do so. But let me share my takeaway from the session. I think the first thing first is that we consider water as a right. So if water is a right, everybody has the right to access water. Meaning putting a burden towards this access, either through limited infrastructure or through privatization, could be a negation of this right. That's number one. Secondly, if water is a right, everybody has the right to talk about water and to be part of the decision on water. So a multi-stakeholder and multi-level approach to water governance is needed now. Therefore, we need that the national government and the local government put in place an enabling mechanism for this participation of everybody in the water policy and its implementation. Thirdly, I didn't hear much about money. Strange. Because without money dedicated to water, your right is nowhere to be found. So finance